Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me again. It's been actually a little bit too long since the last time I've gotten into this, although I've been reading the Karika. So, this is, of course, um, a study of the Samkhya Karika by the sage Kapila. We're up to 16, up to verse 16. And its translation is the unmanifest as the cause does exist. It functions through the three attributes by combining and by modification, like water, due to the particular characteristics of the abode of each of the attributes. So we're getting back into the gunas, right? The last few verses essentially were about the gunas, or the qualities of the universe, or the qualities, I should say, of material nature. Now, it begins, though, by saying the unmanifest as the cause does exist. I love this. It's like a proclamation, right? It's that's what it is. It's not trying to convince anybody, right? Kapila is just like, it does exist. The unmanifest. Other ways in which we could have, of course, translate the unmanifest for certain religions would be called God, right? So it does exist. The unmanifest is, of course, we're talking about Samkhya philosophy. This is quite different. It's about, well, it's almost like a force that is both the producer of nature and a product of nature. It's a little bit complicated, right? So we might think of something as a creator, as a single being. That's not the case in Samkhya. They're kind of mutual, right? They're kind of like one and the same. Some of the commentary says as much, actually. I want to keep this relatively simple, though. Of course, we were talking about the gunas. And I think one of the best, well, let's reflect on the gunas for a moment. As I've stated the last few verses that we've studied, we have the three different qualities. Sattva, right, which means like harmony and balance, luminosity. We have tamas guna, right? In tamas, we have like inert and heaviness, darkness, and in rajas, it's like dynamic, passionate. So, these three different qualities, they're in some ways not unlike the Daiji symbol, which I believe I've stated in the past as well, right? In Taoism, right? The yin and the yang. But here we have three, right? But you can see the yin yang, the Daiji symbol, as three as well, right? We have yin and we have yang, but the balance between the two, right? Not necessarily a tug of war. It's a symbiotic communication between the two. And the same thing happens when things in our lives are kind of going smoothly. It's not as if we're trying to depress tamas or rajas necessarily in an effort to become sattvic, but instead we are attempting to, well, use sattva, the quality sattva, to live in harmony when effects based on a certain cause are imposed upon us, right? Right, because we don't, if we lived in a bubble, then we could essentially, live in contentment, right? Live in a sattvic state. But the thing is, there's forces that are imposing their own effects upon us, right? That are all around us, right? Whether these are relationships that we have, could be the weather, it could be any number of things, right? That would end up, again, kind of like imposing an effect upon us, in which we might be joyous about, and in other cases, the opposite, right? We might be greatly saddened by. So an attempt to achieve the sattvic state doesn't mean that, again, they're going to happen, right? Tamas and rajas are going to happen in our lives. It's the effort that we put in to mitigate their effects, maybe, but certainly bring balance in our own lives by better understanding why tamas and rajas has befallen us. Okay. There's one thing about the commentary that I did want to address that I really liked. This is Basya Brahmarishi. This is because this translation consists of two different commentaries, not every passage. The initial commentary was by Gaudapadacharya Basya, and the secondary commentary is Rishi Vishwatma Baura. And Baura, he says something kind of cool. I don't know. It just stuck out to me that I like a lot. Okay. It was not stated that the three attributes, the gunas, are without knowledge, and thus their effects are without knowledge. Furthermore, by this logic, it was declared that Adhyatma, the unmanifest, is without knowledge. Some critics have suggested it is not necessary to say the unmanifest exists because there is no sign, evidence, or proof that unmanifest nature exists. It is enough to say this universe is a manifestation of atoms, and atoms are the cause of this universe. So it is not necessary to believe or accept Adhyatma, that's the unmanifest, as the cause of whatever is beyond our perception and conception. Now, I really want to focus on the first half of this paragraph. It's kind of interesting because we have this idea of the Adhyatma, the unmanifest. Now, the first degree, I guess you would call it, let me see here. The first evolute of Adhyatma, of the unmanifest, is called Mahat, which is cosmic intelligence, right? Which is interesting, right? Because it comes up against this idea of the unmanifest being without knowledge, without intelligence, the same as with the gunas, right? It is stated that the three attributes are without knowledge, and thus their effects are without knowledge. Furthermore, by this logic, it is declared that the unmanifest is also without knowledge, which is so interesting, right? Because, again, the first evolute of the unmanifest is called Mahat, and the rest, right? And we've kind of gone through some of these, although we will get more deeply into them. And that is that this first evolute is essentially called, cosmic intelligence, right? So how can a thing that has no knowledge produce something that is knowledgeable? I found it quite interesting. There's probably another 10 minutes of explaining that whole part. But I love the idea that the unmanifest is without any type of knowledge. It doesn't, right? It just is, right? That's the first thing, right? Is that it just exists on its own without any pretension. And in some ways, it's an example, right? It's a source, an example from which, we ourselves might attempt to live our lives. And I'm not saying, don't learn new things or anything like that. It's that as we gain more and more knowledge, life might become more and more complicated. And the simpler one lives, right, the more content one becomes. Now, I wouldn't be reading my way through this, all six orthodox schools of Indian philosophical thought if I wasn't attempting to gain knowledge along the way. Putting it to practice, so continuing to gain the knowledge and at the same time putting the knowledge to practice are two different things. My friend Greg talks about this all the time, right? Check out his YouTube channel, Kobad. He's a lyricist and a philosopher. Anyway, my point is, striking that balance between gaining knowledge and at the same time not being consumed by that knowledge, so much so that confusion befalls us. It reminds me of the jelly jar experiment, right? When the social experiment was when giving too many options of jellies on a shelf, like jelly and preserves and so on, that less were actually bought. Right? And of course, the marketers at supermarkets use this information in an attempt to find the sweet spot. It can't just be one jelly or jam or whatever it is. It has to be just enough. It can't be too many because then people become confused and don't know which one to pick. Okay, so there's a lot of knowledge, right? A lot of it is actually similar to one another all across the 6 Orthodox schools, which is kind of cool, right? So the concepts remain the same almost over and over and over again, and little tweaks here and there. But as in life, same with studying philosophy, let's not get caught up in the minutia. Take from it its deepest teachings and put them to work for you. All right, so can one both contain and acquire lots of knowledge and at the same time live simply, as in be without knowledge, right? Like the unmanifest? Absolutely. All right, let's sit up tall. A little bit of pranayama. Keep it simple. Ears, shoulders, hips aligned. Relax your face and rest your hands where they might be. Take a quick audit of your body, just a quick scan, right? Exhaling out any tension. Move to an exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Simply follow your breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. And loosen control of your breathing. And just stay focused on your breath for the next few moments. Let's move to an exhale. Deep inhale, shoulders rise. Then exhale through your mouth. Roll your shoulders back and down. I want to thank you so much for joining today. Of course, if you have any questions, please let me know. And be sure to hit that subscribe button, okay? Everybody have a wonderful day. Be sure to take care of yourself and others. Peace.